The tabletop takeaway.
Game mechanics on display.
Three designers share the stage.
Pick a genre and we'll play.
The tabletop takeaway.
And welcome back to the Tabletop Takeaway. I'm Trevor Muller-Hagel.
I'm Ananda Gunratna.
And I'm Charlie McCarran.
And today we are continuing our storytelling series with In This World. Special thank you to Eli Persky for not only recommending this game to us, but also helping us with our first playthrough of this game. It was a fantastic experience, so thank you very much, Eli, for doing that. In This World was created by Ben Robbins of Lame Mage Productions. This game is very different from a lot of the other games that are in this series. There's no actual components that come in the box. Everything is created by the people who are playing the game. And so we sat around and we brainstormed a topic first. As we were brainstorming, we came up with almost a dozen topics, I think, just of different things. We weren't sure what it should be. Of course, I said game design is my first one because, hey, we have it all in common. We could talk about it a lot. Let's do that. But then we also came up with a lot of others. And then, Eli suggested, okay, maybe we could take game design and we pull it back a bit. We, zoom out a little bit further to just games. What do games have to offer for this?
And we didn't really know what was going to be happening in this game,
right?
/ experience, kind of.
Yeah, Eli did say over and over that this was not really a game, but it was more. He didn't know what to call it.
I'm fine calling it a game. I think the designer calls it a game.
Yeah,
so.
I think game fits really well. Yeah. You can probably dive deeper down and say, no, this actually more qualifies as a role-playing, world-building experience. But, we can call it a game because we're taking turns and doing stuff.
I think of it as a world-building game.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So this is a really fascinating game experience where you start with the topic and then you brainstorm about what about this topic is true in our world. And then once you get those ideas figured out, it's like, okay, these are the things that are true about this. You write them all down on note cards. So you kind of created your first component.
Yeah.
And then,
for example, in games, games have rules.
Yep. Games have
people
winners.
Like winning. There are many types of games, just like very generic statements like that. But
society values sports over other types of games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we had I think 12 rules for this one, but it has a variable. You can have a different number. And once you get those figured out, you start taking turns creating and starting a world. So one player will effectively choose one of the things that are true about the topic or games for us, and then they will flip it. So that means that is no longer true. So if everyone values winning in games, maybe everyone does not value winning in games.
Yeah.
And so that's now we've started this world. That person kind of talks about, okay, what is that like? Okay, well, they play games, they do this stuff, but they don't actually enjoy winning. So they're all co-op games. None of them are competitive, whatever that might be. And then the play actually does pass to the next people, and they have the ability to either alter or add detail to what's going on. And so you spend time kind of working together and collaboratively telling this, not necessarily a story, but you're creating this world in which this is all true. And you're creating like a new alternate reality effectively, or a distant alien planet, or a historical fantasy world, whatever it might be. A Renaissance world where games deals with the demons, and it's fascinating times.
Yeah.
It works amazingly well for creating interesting settings.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. We had fantasy, we had sci-fi, and it was all around games.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember just like the first moment where we realized, okay, we're going to be turning this fact that is our current world upside down. I was like, oh, this is really fun already. And so I picked, there are many types of games. Uh-huh. And I was like, no, there's only one game and everyone plays it.
It's actually a religion.
What would be this world? And yeah.
Yeah, and that was one that ended up as the alien world where
they found a game from Earth and worshipped it.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, and as we were talking about it through, it's like you want to have logic within this world, but you're also thinking outside the box and like, okay, how can I be creative about flipping this rule?
Right.
I guess.
Or even using existing things and how that might normally conflict with a rule that's been flipped, but showing how it connects to it.
Yeah.
And so like you just create this new kind of frame of thinking. It's like, oh wow, that's really weird and different and fascinating. Yeah, definitely a lot of raised eyebrows as we were creating these worlds. It was really a really good time.
Like raised in a good way.
Raised in like,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
God, okay, yeah. I think if you stopped playing, you would die. I think was mine.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And then like you'd only play with people you trusted, and so like
Yeah, because if any of them end the game, then all of them die.
then every player dies because there's no winner.
Right.
I want to. That one inspired me. I want to make like, not that I will do this, but like massively multiplayer online game where you like essentially replicating that idea where you can join any number of games within the game. But you have to trust the people you're with, otherwise they could like destroy you by ending the game.
So if they just quit the game, and then they die, but you also die, and then everyone else dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My world in this was based on game balanced. One of our statements was games should be balanced.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
And then I said, well, no, people in this world prefer games be super unbalanced. And then so we talked about the consequences and maybe the reasons behind this, and eventually ended up as, well, people like heavily unbalanced games because it's sort of training for real life, where in this world people make a bunch of deals with demons, and so you need to be really good at rules lawyering and
Yep.
Finding the loopholes in the rules that let you do crazy things.
Yeah, so it's not even necessarily just things that are directly related to games, but also like, why might this be the case, which interacts with other aspects of the societies in the worlds that we create.
Yeah, and just like we started with games and got to where we did, I'm really curious what it would be like to start with other topics and just follow those threads and just see where you go, because that was a crazy experience.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, if we had picked our other topics, like, I think I suggested small animals. So, like, where would that go? I don't know.
Like trees.
Trees.
Oh, yeah.
I am super glad we picked games, though, because it felt like this is perfect and very meta.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what was the religion? Do you remember the name of the religion?
Oh, well, so there was the ludocracy.
It's not really. Ludocracy.
The government was
The
a
government was
ludocracy.
Yep.
That everyone's playing this one game.
Yep.
And whoever the winners are like in charge of the government.
Right.
But at the same time, I think, was it Ananda that suggested the errata?
The
Church of the Errata.
Church of the Errata.
Yeah.
They're allowed to change the rules of the game.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this very clearly creates very, very real feeling worlds that get really well developed, even though you do less than a page of actual like detail.
So I played Robin's other game, Microscope, which has sort of more of a focus on history than on like just a setting.
Sure.
Which is, I guess, history is also a setting, but it has a similar thing of. I feel like one big part of this is you start very general, and then you drill down. Like, we start by brainstorming topics, which is quite general. Then you pick a topic, you come up with statements, and then in the first round of figuring out what the world is all about, you're sort of making broader statements about the society, mostly by choosing some of our 12 things that we said are true of games as they are currently.
Right.
And then either flipping them or saying, no, this stays the same. But then in the second round, you're only allowed to add smaller details.
Right. You're not able to make those big switches.
Right.
But you can still add those little pieces to what people have already said.
Yeah, so it sort of it starts broad and really drills down on the details, which works well. And it worked well in Microscope too. So
yeah, and kind of thinking about how you create your major points or the positive points we were saying in the other episode, and you're doing the negative. You're kind of, or you're almost omitting negative. You're just creating those main points in this world. That's interesting.
Yeah. So the idea of the negative and positive, which I like those terms, even though it's kind of
It doesn't
maybe
make
a little
sense, yeah.
But it's like negative space being what you fill in between, like
Right.
these hard and fast rules about like there's only one game.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
also,
because of that,
what do you?
the extrapolation.
Or yeah. It's not. It's more like an explanation or justification of
It's
why.
the dark matter, if you will.
Sure.
You know?
I think my takeaway is related to that idea, and like I think actually it's kind of like interesting to see a formal system for such a loose
Right.
abstract thing of like, okay, now in this phase we are gonna write down these things, and now in this phase we're gonna, one person is the storyteller, no one else can say anything while they're telling about this universe at first, and then so it's like very organized brainstorming
Yeah.
which I thought was very cool.
Which really, like, depending on your group dynamic, if you have someone that maybe talks over other people or someone who doesn't like to talk much, that can be a really good way to get them to balance out and either listen more or talk more, depending on the person.
Well, it's also the notion of authorial fiat, right? Like whoever is currently speaking has complete control,
Right.
which is very useful as opposed to people arguing over how things should be. You just say, no, it's like this. I have to be consistent with things other people have said, but I get to make this up. It's going to be like this. Now you need to be consistent with what I've said. Mm-hmm. And that works really well, I feel, in creative endeavors.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and one thing maybe we should talk about, whether or not it's a game, like there's not winners for sure. There's an end point. There's an end point, kind of like, okay, when you're done.
Yeah. You
with
go through all the
phases,
turns. Yep.
Yeah, you go through the turns, and
And then it's done.
And we are all cooperating to get to something fun, I guess, or interesting, or I don't know.
And that's the difficulty. Yeah.
Well, okay. Back in the day, I remember playing Telephone Pictionary,
Yeah.
which the sort of folk version of it does not have a winner at all. It doesn't even try to have a winner. You're having fun drawing silly pictures and writing silly descriptions of those pictures. And then at the end, you don't win. You see what happened during the game, and that's fun. And then they repackage that as telestrations, which honestly really annoys me because I don't like it when folk games get commercialized like that. And telestrations tries to add a victory condition to it.
Voting with endpoints, kind of like
I don't even
sort of
remember
like
how
it.
works.
There's like you can vote for funniest panel.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically to make probably
Gamify
American
it a little bit more.
audiences satisfied with like there's a winner.
Yeah, people have this notion. I see this a lot. I mean, I see this a lot in party games that they need to have a winner. And with things like Telephone Pictionary or just party games in general, I don't feel like that adds anything. Like people don't care who wins a party game. That's not
Some
the
people do
point.
care, unfortunately.
Right. Well,
Well, you get I mean, like in Wing It, you do get a little immediate satisfaction. That's kind of fun. Of like, yay, the judge picked my story, but.
Ooh, I'm better than other people because I have 3.
Yeah.
Says Ananda.
Well, yeah, I think it is maybe a good broader question though of storytelling games too. It's like, yeah, maybe that's another takeaway. Is like games don't need to have a winner always. Like this can be whether it's a game or an activity or whatever.
especially games that are based around creativity and creating stuff.
Yeah.
and narrative.
You all win if you created a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes having a winner can undermine that a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe all you need in a rule book is something cheeky that's like, congratulations, you all win.
I mean, you can do something like what Galaxy Trucker did, right?
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Did you come out positive? Good job. You won.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also, well, I guess my takeaway for this, I feel like this could be used for some other things. Like, for example, game design.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Because, as designers, we're always talking about intuitions, right? Like in a worker placement game, having more workers is good. I can imagine a design
What if it
exercise.
wasn't?
Exactly. Yes. I can imagine a design exercise where, you basically play in this world, but using people's intuitions about a particular genre of game, right?
And maybe have fewer, because we had 12 rules, maybe we have 6 or 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah.
Just to make
Yeah.
it more feasible.
Right. And then you have, okay, this is what is usually the case in a worker placement game or in a social
Deck
deduction
builder.
game or in a deck
Yeah.
builder game. This is what's usually the case, but we're going to flip this one card. And then we're going to figure out, well, what would a game look like if this were not the case?
Right.
And that's a really great way to generate inversions on genres, which I feel often lead to very good games.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the hard part if you're just doing it, free of any structure, you don't know, how far is too far to move away and how many things can you invert before it gets alien.
Right.
And you don't, people aren't interested in it because it's not anything they've seen.
Yeah.
So, that gives it, some boundaries and some structure, which I think is pretty cool.
So my takeaway is a new game design exercise.
Yeah. I
Which is
feel
great.
like we should compile all these exercises that we've done because,
Right.
Ananda suggested a couple that we've done: game shuttling and game
What was the other
shuffling.
one? Shuffling.
Juggling.
Juggling.
So it's
That's right.
shuttling being that. Well, you could explain it too.
Shuttling, it's basically telephone Pictionary, but with
Words
with
and
games, right?
Yeah.
Like you each write down one sentence describing part of a game idea. You pass it to the next person. They elaborate on this. Depending on the group, this may devolve into silliness.
We've done one with I don't know.
What was the human
18
invasion?
people going around
one,
and
yeah.
it got
That'd be
just
crazy.
so many inside jokes, and then Ananda made a game out of that.
Yeah, Legends of the Boatman.
Legends of the Boatman that referenced all these random games. So
That
But
makes sense,
you can also do this seriously and
Yeah.
come up with game ideas to
Yeah.
try, which the
Which
three
we
of us
have done.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to give my takeaway before I forget to.
oh yeah.
I'm going to say that when you're going to have something that has a lot of creativity, or you want to inspire a lot of creativity, you actually want to give a high structure, but open-ended structure. So okay, now you're going to do this thing. It's okay, I can do that. We're going to brainstorm for 5 minutes. I can brainstorm for 5 minutes. That's easy. And then you just move on to the next part and then the next part. And you're kind of not realizing how much work you're doing. I air quoted work. But you're actually creating a system in which you can interact with. And I think that's a really good thing to kind of take away if you're trying to create something that is inspiring creativity. A strong framework is really important, but not actually strong rules within that framework. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think my takeaway is the feeling I got of wow, I feel really creative for coming up with this thing, even just off the bat from just looking at 12 different things and oh, what would be fun if I start with this and invert it. And not only does it make me feel creative for doing that, but also it unlocks creativity in you guys too.
Right.
Because there's so many moments where you guys would suggest something and I was whoa, I never thought about it in that way.
Right, in that
So,
context, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how to get at that in other types of games, but I would like to.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Well,
But game design.
Any last comments on In This World?
I mean, In This World is fantastic.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of other things, it does actually have practical uses.
Right.
For coming up. I mean, it's fun, but you can also use it to just come up with all sorts of different settings.
Yeah.
If you're an author or you're an RPG designer or something, or a game master.
Yeah.
It's just a really great way to create interesting, unique, original worlds.
Yeah. I thought as we were just making these 3 worlds, I was like, I would read that book. I would read that book, and I would read that book.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, more to come in our next bonus episode, our wrap-up episode about storytelling games. So tune in next time.
Hey, thanks for listening to The Tabletop Takeaway. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. So please tell your friends and visit our website at thetabletoptakeaway.com, where you can suggest games and mechanics for us to cover next on the show.